Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. Chimp, Cockatoo classes, Practicum, and Apprenticeship information session. I appreciate y'all joining tonight. Sorry for the short notice. It's been a whirlwind adventure with our other 3 advanced classes starting today. So thank you for your patience while we get everything organized and communicate as quickly as possible. We are recording tonight, so if you have any connection issues or for anybody who wasn't able to make it, then they should be able to watch the recording and or check out the slides. And of course, feel free to reach out to Frank or Roy, who are both on the call as well, if you have questions during or after tonight's meeting. You can put questions up in the chat if you'd like to. You can unmute and interrupt. Whatever you prefer is totally fine with us. Frank, Roy, did you all have anything that you needed or wanted to add before we get rolling? You can either just nod or shake your heads too if you don't want to find your mute.
Everything going so far.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Okay. So let's dive right in then. Practicum structure. You all are in a cohort that's just Node and React. You didn't have a Ruby on Rails class, so you'll have a pretty straightforward Practicum structure. We're going to have React graduates, Node Express graduates. You'll finish your final projects at the end of your course. And then between now and then, you can start meeting with each other to try and form groups. We want to have about 3 React students to 2 Node students per group. You can use the Chimp Cockatoo outlet channel to be able to meet each other, or I'm also going to poll you all towards the end to see if you'd also like to have something that's more synchronous visual like what we're doing right now, to be able to kind of meet and get to know each other, get to know each other's work ethic or ideas for concepts for what you might like to build, things like that. So by the end of class, hopefully you'll have an idea of the people that you'd like to work with, and or you will have formed a group of 3 React students to 2 Node students. Each group will be assigned a mentor. It may or may not be a mentor from one of your classes, or it might be a new mentor from outside our organization that's come to us wanting to volunteer and help. But everybody will have a primary mentor for their group that they'll be able to work with through the practicum. There aren't any scheduled like meeting times. You all will come up to with your meeting time as a group. So it's not like mentor sessions right now where you've got the calendar and you know what times you can meet. You'll just have to coordinate amongst yourselves and your mentor as far as what time you'll meet regularly to touch base on your projects and everything. There's a question in the chat about if there's a rubric available for the practicum so you can start formulating ideas. There isn't a rubric per se, I don't believe, but you can find all of the information at learn.codethedream.org, and then you'd want to take a look at the one that's starting next week, which is the Bald Eagle Baboon Practicum. I'm grabbing that link right now and putting it in the chat, so that way if you want to take a look at it, you can. But this will be your overall structure. We'll likely have backup mentors, and or Frank and Roy might be able to flit in and out of groups just to kind of see how you're progressing, answer any questions, help with any kind of direction, that kind of a thing. But your day-to-day grind or any issues you run into on the technical coding level, you'd want to reach out to your primary mentor for. Any questions about practicum structure and sort of like the size and style or combination of students you need to be able to form in your groups? Okay. All right, so let's talk curriculum. The primary goals of the Practicum curriculum are to continue building on the skills that you've learned in your class. So Node students, you'll be building a backend for the React front-end students to be able to use as their API. And React students, you'll build the front end, the user interface for people to be able to interact with your API data that your Node students have built. So you'll be building on your learning. You'll also learn things that are outside of the coding things that you're learning in class. We want you to learn how to cooperatively and collaboratively work with others on one body of code. Sorry, excuse me just a moment. There we go. Because once you start working with other people and you have multiple people touching the same code base, then you need to have very clear communication as far as who's working on what, making sure that you're updating your local code when classmates or other people of your group have updated the main code base, all of those kinds of things. It's sort of a delicate dance that we want you to be able to learn in a practicum environment. And you'll also learn about workflow processes as well. So typically in a lot of tech industry positions, you have what's called Agile, Scrum, and stand-ups. Stand-ups are daily meetings where you just check in briefly with each other as far as how's your work going today, what are you working on, what's already completed, so that way you can kind of keep the momentum going of building your project. And a Scrum typically happens once a week, but sometimes it can happen once at the end of every 2-week period. You'll have 2-week sprints where for 2 weeks you'll focus on particular concepts. And then Agile is sort of this overall, like every X number of weeks, we're checking in to see what have we accomplished of that particular feature we focused on. Where are we going with our project? Do we need to make any revisions because something's taking longer or was done quicker than we thought it would be? That kind of a thing. And we'll go over all of this in a practicum orientation before your practicum begins. We just had that with students last night, and it's very intensive as far as you have a good solid block of time when we'll go over information, give you an example of like how to resolve merge conflicts, show you what kind of tools you'll be using to keep your group organized and communicating with each other and all of that good stuff. So all of the other things that you see in the primary goals as far as project management devices, working through concept build, testing, deployment, handling merge conflicts and code review, demoing your work at the end of practicum, all of those things are things that we'll do a deeper dive in for your orientation. But in general, the overall arc of it is you start practicum, you'll do 2-week sprints where you're focusing on particular things every 2 weeks. You'll have weekly meetings where you're checking in within your group to see how things are going. And then at the end of that 8-week period, you'll demo your work and you'll be able to show us, here's what we got accomplished in that 8-week period. Because it's only 8 weeks, keep your app simple. It doesn't have to be, you know, the next Chat GPT. It doesn't have to be the next Facebook or, you know, whatever else out there that's these huge mega apps. It can be something very simple, very straightforward. Past practicum groups have done things like a gallery page for users to be able to post their photography that they do, or a very simple like live chat messenger app kind of a thing, where it's just very straightforward. You log in, you have one channel, and you just contribute to the dialogue. So you can have a variety of things that you build, and it's up to you all for what you want to build. So you can discuss it as far as where your interests lie, what you think might be interesting to build, what might incorporate other aspects of React or third-party libraries or other bells and whistles that you haven't gotten to try because you're learning the basics in class right now. You know, an app that would incorporate those and let you kind of explore that avenue of using something new. Questions about curriculum at all? And again, feel free to visit the link that's in the chat to be able to take a look at what that curriculum looks like for the Baboon Ball Legal classes that are starting March 13th. They're starting their practicum March 13th, because your overall curriculum should be pretty similar to what that is. I don't think we'll have tons and tons of revisions between their class and your all's class having your practicum sessions. Okay, so what's going to be similar to class? The time commitment is going to be the primary similarity. So if you're spending 10 to 20 hours a week on classwork right now, that's what you should expect for practicum as well. So plan accordingly. Make sure that you're balancing your time and all of that good stuff. What's going to be different is less structure. So right now you've got very specific chapters that you read or a segment of video content that you're covering in your lesson materials. You have a specific coding assignment with boxes to check as far as your code needs to be including this and running this way by the end of your coding assignment. You're not going to have that same structure in practicum because different groups might be picking different ideas or applications that they're going to be building. And so something might not apply for a messenger app that would apply for a photo gallery app of people's artwork, for example. So for that reason, there is less structure to it because you might have to do a little more research on your own to find the tools and or implement those particular tools into whatever the app is that your group is building. But you do have pretty clear guidelines as far as these are your goals for this sprint. These are what you should be focusing on and accomplishing as far as like user authentication and login capabilities, or being able to successfully connect your Node backend to your React front end, things of that nature. So you'll have those clear objectives, both for the team as well as things that you should accomplish on your own. In your weekly meetings, you'll decide who's working on what bits and pieces of what you're building for that week or 2-week time. So you'll have to break up what the workload is amongst yourselves so that it's clear who's responsible for what bits and pieces of your group project. You'll have a more regular schedule. And it can be similar to what you're doing right now. I'm sure a lot of you already have time periods where you're like, okay, Tuesday is my go whole hog on everything that I need to focus on for class kind of a thing. And that's perfectly fine. If you have blocks of time that you've already carved out for class, you can still have those blocks of time that you've carved out that you'll work on practicum things, but you will have to be regularly, daily checking in with your group mates to make sure that everybody's on the same page and knows where things are at, because maybe you're building something that another person can't start their part of the project until the part that you've built is complete. So for that reason, then you'll want to have more touch points. They don't have to be synchronous touch points, but you do need to have more regular communication on a day-to-day basis throughout the week with your team. And you'll collaborate a little bit more with each other. Although I saw the 6 o'clock study session for Cockatoo, and it seemed like you all are collaborating pretty well as is. So you might just be carrying that collaboration on into Practicum. But if you have been kind of an island unto yourself within the class, this will be a chance for you to be able to reach out and get comfortable working with other developers. Questions about similarities, differences between class and Practicum at all that anybody wants me to cover? Okie dokie. So the tools that you'll be using, I'll be building a page just like that link that I put in for Baboon Bald Eagle Practicum. I'll be building your own page that'll outline and show you like from this week to this week or from this date to this date, focus on these particular lessons. So it's going to look very similar to your class website as far as you have a calendar of what you're going to be working on at whatever times throughout your time in Practicum. You still have the student resources pages. In that class resources navigation menu item on learn.codethedream.org. So if you're needing to refer to anything, then you can. GitHub will be the primary usage. So Code the Dream School, just like we have your repository that we built with your wiki information for the React class, or the repositories that we have that are your base code that you're working off of for the Node class. Then we'll have repositories that are just skeleton repositories that we have built for you. And you all will be collaborators on those repositories. So it's not going to be a matter of like forking, cloning, and then you push stuff up to your copy of it every week. There will be one published copy with Code the Dream School, and you all will be pushing to Code the Dream School one instead of pushing to your own copy of it. So that's one thing that'll be a little bit different. You'll still have Slack to be able to communicate. I'll be having you all in individual private Slack channel groups when you've formed your groups or once you're a part of a group. Then we'll be creating those the week prior to your practicum starting. You'll still have a Zoom channel like what we're in right now, so that way groups can meet either whenever they need to pair program or just touch base with each other, or for their weekly meetings. Then we'll have that arranged so you can set up your class or your group meeting times whenever you need to. So all of those tools should be pretty familiar and standard to you. GitHub will also have like a GitHub projects for you to be able to link any of your pull requests or issues or things like that to your repository, to a board, so everybody can just go to the board and take a look and see what's in progress, what's needing to be done, what's completed, that kind of a thing. But again, we'll go over all of those things in detail during your practicum orientation. So I used these words earlier and I just wanted to use them and define them here so that way everybody's kind of aware of what they mean. You'll hear them bandied about a lot in the tech industry. Agile, Sprint, and Scrum. So Scrum are just your short daily meetings. These will probably be asynchronous on Slack with your group, and it's just a check-in of what have you done? What are you working on? What will you be working on? Do you have any blockers, any issues that are keeping you from making progress on what you're working on for that particular day? A sprint in Practicum is that 2-week period where you're going to be focused on a particular feature of the product. So it'd be building the login page, or adding some kind of additional authentication to something, or creating a dashboard, or whatever the case may be. And then Agile is that iterative approach to project management. So it's the repetition of once one sprint is done, you do another sprint, you do another sprint after that one. And it's just to be able to keep checking and make sure that you're on track with your project, that you're making progress with your project, and to bring things down to small, easier bites to accomplish within a smaller time period window. And this is sort of what it winds up looking like on your calendar. So May 15th will be the first day of your all's practicum. So each day you'll have a brief asynchronous Scrum meeting, and then Sprint will go over 2 weeks. And this whole process throughout the 8 weeks is Agile. So I just wanted to give you a visual to kind of get an idea in your mind as far as what a Sprint is versus a Scrum versus Agile process. Anybody have questions about those terms or feel confused or anything?
So which one is recommended? Or we just chose it by ourselves, like in a group?
So you'll actually be doing all of them. So the Scrum is just asynchronous as far as like you'll put a message in your group chat as far as like, this is what I'm working on. And then you'll have weekly meetings. So you'll actually have 2 meetings over each sprint where you all get together just to touch base and make sure that everybody's clear as far as what tasks they're assigned, what they're working on, what has been done, what still needs to be done. And you all can discuss if there's any kind of revisions that need to be made to your plan for your project. Does that help answer your question, Tim? Other questions?
Yep.
Okay, nice. All right, so what happens now? The primary focus from now to the end of class is just getting to know each other. You can use the Chimp Cockatoo Outlet Slack channel. If you all would like to meet on Zoom meetings, I've got some prompts that kind of help promote dialogue about different technical things. So we can also have that as an option as well too. A few weeks before class ends, you'll decide amongst yourselves as far as who's working in your group. So you'll form groups on your own as far as who you'd like to work with. 3 React students to 2 Node students is what you want to keep in mind. And you can start brainstorming an app that you might like to build at any point in time. A good way to find ideas, if you're like, I don't even know where to begin on this, is to just search for either React or React Node applications that are beginner projects. There's always tons of information if you're just Googling like portfolio building projects or beginner projects for React Node. It'll give you tons of ideas out there. And you can also take a basic idea or an idea that's visited a lot in those kinds of tutorials as people are skill building and kind of fancying up their resumes and their portfolios. And you can tweak it a little and say, yeah, I still want to do a to-do list app, but I want to have it have this kind of functionality or these extra features or things like that. Optional is you can preview the curriculum for Practicum if you'd like to. Again, that link is in the chat if anybody needs it. All right. So for getting social, you can use Slack, Discord, or other social means to be able to get to know each other. The things that you'll want to be sharing and kind of learning about each other is what are you working on the week for your class? How does it relate to your final project that you're going to be building for class? What kind of interests do you have in tech or in your framework or your tech stack? Where do you feel you need to grow or where do you feel you have strengths at? It's funny because a lot of times you want to find people with similarities to you, but in a group you might want to have a little bit more diversity as far as where people's strengths lie, because then you can learn from people who are stronger in an area that you're weaker in and vice versa. You can be helping others on a concept that you got down really well in class and you understand, but somebody else is struggling with and they can wrap their head around it better, having somebody else explain it or seeing it in a different way in the context of the project you're building. And then topic of discussion, you can also just shoot the breeze as far as, hey, what's your favorite thing to do for downtime as far as how do you relax on the weekends or what's a great book you've read, things like that. So you can find common interests too, if you'd like to. For finding teammates and identifying which classmates you'd like to work with on a team, you do want to take a look as far as similar goals and interests as far as like, do you want to build a sort of social app or maybe a sort of more commercial oriented app, something that's social justice related or helpful to your community in some way, anything like that. You can kind of put feelers out there as far as what goals and interests people have. You want somebody that you're comfortable communicating with for sure, because you're going to have to be talking to each other a lot over practicum. So make sure that you're able to communicate well and comfortably with each other. And then you, like I had mentioned earlier, you want different strengths and weaknesses so that way you can support each other. If you bring a bunch of different people with different strengths and weaknesses to the table, then you have at least somebody strong in every aspect or area. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hopefully I am going to figure out how to be able to do this to start the poll. Yeah, okay, good. Here we go. I'm just going to put a poll question up really quick. I'm going to launch it so that way you all can answer. We just wanted to touch base to see if you'd prefer meeting each other, getting social with each other just through that Slack Chimp Cockatoo Outlet channel, just through Zoom meetings like we're on now where you get to know each other. You'd have like a host for the evening. It would likely be either Frank or I hosting for the evening. To be able to give you some prompts and put you into breakout rooms so you can get to know each other, mix you up a little bit, get to know each other from other classes and all of that, or if you'd like both. So feel free to answer however you'd like to answer for that. And based on your all's responses, which it looks like everybody's in, right? 11 participants. No, I've only have 11 participants answered so far. So we're still waiting on a couple of others. But by and far, so far, it's looking like the boths will have it. Here you go. If anybody hasn't answered yet, go ahead and answer. We should have 15 people, I think. So there might be 2 folks we haven't heard from yet. I probably shouldn't have pulled that poll over so that it wouldn't sway people's opinions, but it looks pretty clear like the majority of you would like to have both options available. So Frank and I will work on setting up some socials. My next question, actually, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. And let me set up a new one just to be able to get an idea as far as day of the week you'd prefer to have those socials held. And so be thinking as I'm building this and typing it out and everything, please be thinking as far as what day of the week you think might be the best day for you to be able to just hop on. Usually it was like about a 45-minute to a 1-hour call with previous classes, and you would just join at that same day and time every week to be able to get mixed up into different breakout rooms where maybe you get to meet somebody you haven't met so far in class from the other class, or met from your class that you haven't encountered so far because of them being at different mentor sessions or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and pop that up, and feel free to just share what day of the week you'd prefer to meet. And it would be what day of the week whatever your local day of the week is. I know we've got several folks in the Cockatoo class that are spread out around the globe. Roy, just for interest, as people are putting in their responses, the most recent node class had people in 10 different time zones. So they beat your class by 1.
Oof, that's a
Yeah.
lot.
But they were also grouped a little bit better. Like they had a lot of folks from like UK and Spain, Portugal, and Western Africa kind of time zones. So at least they were kind of grouped and not too terribly far off from US time zones.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, let me just add my numbers here quick and see if we've got everybody. Good. Okay, we've got everybody. We're spread out with the majority of folks having said Sunday, but then we've got Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday tied for second. So we'll definitely have one on Sunday, and we might throw another one in there on either Tuesday, Friday, or Saturday. So keep an eye out on your class channels for the dates and times for when those will begin. We'll probably start at about 6 weeks before your class ends, because we'll just need a couple of weeks to be able to get organized. So keep an eye out for the next week or two as far as any announcements about those socials coming soon. And let's see if I had any more slides. I think that was the end of it. Oh, what happens after practicum? Right. I'm sure everybody's curious about that. So at the end of your current class, you complete a form to submit your final project, and then you'll have a second form to confirm that you are going to be participating in practicum. And then you will have completed your final project in time to be able to participate in practicum. So towards the end of class, expect 2 forms that you'll need to fill out. The form to submit your final project is the same as your regular weekly assignment submission form, but it'll have some new questions on it since you'll be filling out your final. It lets us know where your interest lies as far as if you want to take practicum next, if you want to take another advanced class next, if you want to just go ahead and start your job hunt and dive right into the work world, whatever the case may be. So you'll fill out that information when you submit your final project using that usual assignment submission form. And then the other form just lets us know as far as like your availability and who the people are that you'd like to work with in your group. If at the end of class you haven't formed a group with anybody, that's okay too. I will be taking a look at anybody that responds that they have folks in the class they'd like to work with, but they haven't formed an official group per se. And I'll group you all up as what makes the most sense as far as keeping you all together with similar availabilities. So that way it'll be easy for you to meet as a group. At the end of practicum, then you'll complete a self-evaluation, which also serves as your application for the apprenticeship, if that's what you're hoping to do at the end of your practicum. And you'll also fill out team member evaluations on each other, just so that way you can let us know where people's strengths lies, where people's weaknesses lie, so that way we can give each of you feedback, both from your mentors and from your classmates, as far as, hey, they were really stellar about this, they seemed a little weak on this. So that way you know where to focus your energies as you're job hunting and as you're skill building, then you know kind of what direction to go in to be able to help get you a little more well-rounded as far as your availability, or sorry, as far as your technical knowledge. Okay, so after class, after practicum, if you are accepted into the apprenticeship program, it's a 9-month minimum commitment, but it is offered for 1 full year. It's a 40 hours a week job. It is remote. There'll be certain times during the week when you'll have to meet with your project team. So you will have some standing meetings that you do have to attend. Most of them are within the sort of like 9 to 6 p.m. East Coast time frame. It is a paid position with benefits. It's only available to people with U.S. work authorization. So if you can fill out a W-2, you are applicable for the apprenticeship. If you cannot fill out the W-2, let me know, because I'll put you in touch with Lori. She's our program director, and she'll be able to give you more details of other opportunities where you can still be getting real world practice and building those skills and building your resume by having that real world practice through co-ops or other partner organizations that might have opportunities that we can send you into that don't require any kind of U.S. work authorization. Questions about this process, this flow, or about the apprenticeship?
How can we submit our projects for the practicum?
Oh yeah, excellent. So we'll already see your projects because they'll be on Code the Dream School repositories that we build. So we'll be seeing your code there, so you won't have to submit anything. But at the end of your practicum, at the end of the 8 weeks, then we'll do a demo day. So all of the groups that participated in practicum, then they will get on a call together, and usually it's with Code the Dream staff. So it's people who, just like yourselves, have already gone through a class and a practicum and built a project, maybe similar or in some ways, shape, or form had a similar experience to you. And sorry, excuse me. And then you'll just demo your work. You have, I think it's like 5 to 10 minutes to be able to present. And ideally, every member of your team will just take a minute or two to be able to say, this is what I worked on our app. Let me show you how it works. And here's what we learned, kind of a thing. So it's just a brief little demo day with a 5 to 10 minute presentation and show off your work. There was a question in the chat, salary for the, oh, sure, no problem. Thanks, Tam. Salary for the apprenticeship, I believe it's $30,000 a year is my understanding. But if you live in a high cost area, like Boston, San Francisco, then I believe it's 35 at that point. But I need to confirm that, and it might change. That might increase. It definitely won't go lower, but it might increase depending on how all of our funding goes, since we are a nonprofit. Good questions. All right. Well, I think that was everything as far as presentation goes. So we're going to stick around and answer any questions that you have. So feel free to fire off those questions either in the chat or unmute and ask. If you feel like you've gotten all the info you need, thanks for joining tonight, and we will see you in class. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one. There weren't very many questions this time. Either I'm getting very concise in the information I share, or did you have any questions, Inara? Was there anything that you needed?
Hello. Hello guys. I have a question.
Yeah.
It's about the practicum. Now I'm behind. I'm still behind. I was able to kind of catch up, but this current moving and packing and everything, it's kind of
Overwhelming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still trying to manage it, and going to this weekend, going to catch up again.
Yeah.
Like,
That is
but the
perfectly fine.
practicum.
Yeah.
Thank you. But practicum is kind of, I don't know if it's required or I would definitely try it, because I feel that JavaScript and React is killing, they both killing me. I'm not
Oh
getting,
no, we don't
I'm
want you
stuck.
to have blood on your hands there from JavaScript. Yeah.
Yeah,
For your situation, I don't think it would be required. You're still apprenticing with us, aren't you, Inara?
yeah, I am.
Yeah. So then you don't have to worry about practicum. If you're feeling like you would benefit from being an assistant mentor to one of the groups, then you can do that. Like Alton, Michaud, and Vaidehi Sapra. I don't know if you've encountered them in projects on the apprenticeship side or not. But both of them, they had completed additional classes beyond what they already completed in order to get them into the
Mhm,
apprenticeship. And so when they
mhm.
completed the class, they had the option of if they wanted to be like a junior mentor for the class they completed, so that way they could help and give some experience, because having been an apprentice, then you kind of know how it works as far as like meeting deadlines and working with clients, and working to a schedule for team development and that kind of a thing. So you have that option, but if you're also like, look, I'm this deep in my apprenticeship work, then you can just forego it. It's not an issue at all.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I was thinking about, okay, I'm on Damas project, and it's kind of React and Ruby Rails, and I was thinking if I'll start to take some like really lightweighted tickets to practice my React skills. Maybe it will be something that can substitute the practicum,
Yeah.
but
You get a
yeah.
certificate of completion for the class, and then if you do practicum, you get a certificate of completion for the practicum. But you
Okay.
don't really have to worry about it either way, I don't think, Inara, because most people, they're doing the practicum to be able to basically have that serve as their application for the apprenticeship. But you're already there, so it's kind of moot for you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mary Alice.
Yeah.
So I'll probably skip practicum, because yeah, I'll probably take new tickets for React part of our project.
Yep.
Because yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging.
Yeah.
I didn't expect
And you
that,
can also,
but I
like,
try.
because you're already apprenticing, you can also, review any weeks of React that were giving you struggles. You can ask your project manager on Vamos if you want to like pair program with a front end developer on the project to kind of see how they handle things or how they're working
Mhm,
through stuff like that. And then you can, once you feel
mhm,
comfortable, you can also tell your project manager, hey, I feel ready to go ahead and take on some React tickets, some front end tickets for Vamos too. So you have those
mhm,
options as far as continuing to skill build without having to do the practicum. The primary
mhm.
focus for why we built the practicum, beyond just giving people more practice with the tech stack that they just learned in class, was also to introduce them to these workflow concepts that a lot of them up till that point would be completely unfamiliar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just really good information to me, because I was not sure what to do with practicum and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's
I
completely optional
appreciate,
for you. Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
appreciate that
And you can let us know
clarifying
closer to
this.
the time too. Like if things settle down with Vamos, which I don't see happening just because Vamos is a beast. But if it settles down and you're like, hey, I do have a little more time, I do want to do practicum so that I can work on a different project that isn't, high pressure because I'm building this for a client kind of a thing. I want to go ahead and do that. You can always let us know and we can plug you in. That's not a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it for me. Thank you for
Awesome.
asking those
That's all right.
questions, and
Sure.
just happy birthday again.
Oh,
Have
thanks.
a great
Thanks.
have a great night,
Thanks.
and
You
take
too. Take
care.
care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye guys.
Gents, was there anything else y'all needed?
Oh my God, I need so much stuff.
The list is just so big.
And do it all right now. Ignore the cake. Do it now.
Oh, because she's a Rails developer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought, yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, theoretically, if she wants to get some practice in React, the practicum actually would be for her, because she's not bombarded with this huge. Because I don't know, I haven't looked at the most code base, but I know they have, I guess, a separate code base for the React Native stuff. But it's still a pretty big like code base, so like it probably would help her to start with the practicum. But
Okay.
if she has any time, then obviously that comes first. So it's like, but
Yeah, because
well, I
all
mean,
the practicum stuff they have to do outside of their apprenticeship hours. So
yeah. But yeah, if she gets a little experience with React, then she could jump on later on. So yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good stuff.
So then tomorrow is just the same thing as yesterday, but just
with the
shorter and
mentors.
just with all the mentors. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Shorter, quicker, and with the mentors. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
What's that
Good
now?
stuff. For the baboon, bald eagle, bass mentors that'll be involved in in the March 13th practicum. Then Frank and I are doing that one. Yeah. Don't worry, Roy. It's not for your class.
Okay, it's like what?
I know.
You ready,
Something
Roy?
else.
Come on, we're starting next week.
I know, right?
Oh my goodness. So much fun and adventures.
So there is actually one thing that you'd said that I did have a question about, because you're saying like the mentors will be the ones that will be like the group leaders or whatever, and then me and Frank will check in periodically. Does that mean we're not going to be a group mentor? Because I thought that's kind of
it's
part
up
of the.
to you.
You can, yeah.
It's up to you. You can if you want to. It's not an expectation. So since the cohort instructional leader role is sort of a more supervisory admin role, then my intention and what I sincerely hope the other people who I passed that job description onto and they said, yeah, that's good, are in accordance with is that it's up to you as far as if you want to mentor a group, then you can. But if you also want to just be overseeing and touching base in with your mentors, peeking in on your groups periodically to make sure everybody's doing okay, has what they need, that's totally fine too. So yeah, but the minimum expectation is just keeping tabs with your mentors and popping into groups periodically or just checking in with them asynchronously to make sure everything's going as needed and that they have what they need. Yeah.
All right. I think I'll probably take that latter route then. Just be a backstop for the mentors who are doing the projects themselves.
Yeah. And that'll definitely still keep you busy enough because there might be, hey, I'm swamped with work this day and tomorrow. Can I send some questions from my group members to you if they have any?
Well, that and chilling out the inevitable conflicts that did happen whenever people start to form groups.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm keeping all fingers crossed and knocking on every wooden surface. But
just do
fortunately,
it like this.
Yeah, exactly. The addition of having them choose their groups seems to have de-escalated a lot of that. Like in our early practicums where I was just saying, tell me your availability, I'm putting you into groups, then we'd have more tension than in instances where it's like, you all pick your groups. I think it's because they kind of have that onus as far as like, okay, I have to be able to work with these people. And so it's not a matter of like, I'm going to butt heads because I didn't really pick you. I didn't really want to be with you, but I'm stuck with you kind of a thing. It's all right, I acknowledge I wanted to work with you. So this is on me.
For college group projects.
Yeah.
You still have to assign the final groups for next week though, right? This weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have not done that yet. Yeah. It's a pretty tight turnaround, I think, for your all's classes. So this time around, their practicum starts March 13th, and I told them they needed to have their practicum participant forms into me by March 8th. So that only gave me 5 days between when they have to have their deadline for their forms turned in saying, yes, I'm participating, to when they actually start. For your all's classes, I think I'm going to ask that they have it turned in by the end of their final project presentations. So your all's classes end May 2nd. I'm going to let them know they need to have those forms into me by May 5th. So that way I have the entire week, the following week, to be able to set up structures, get them in channels, make sure that their groups are making sense and either what they desired and or make sense for their availabilities and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right. I was
Cool.
impressed
That's
how
good.
quickly that went tonight. Usually the practicum
Yeah.
apprenticeship information sessions are like an hour plus sometimes. So yay for going fast.
Yeah, there wasn't too many questions. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
You do it enough times and you know what questions people are going to ask. So you can just
Yeah, you
you
got to
know,
unlock.
boil it down to the to the primary things. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, then I'll
Cool.
go ahead and end call. Thanks, gents. Holler at me if you
All
need
right,
anything.
thank you.
Cool.
Talk to
Talk to you later.
See ya.